Hello, everybody, and welcome to our session on digital sound audio podcast recording. So today we'll be talking about how to plan and produce an audio podcast. So we'll be going through some of these concepts. So in the past, we've had some workshops on actual audio podcast recording, more on the technical side. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the creative side and looking at some of the differences between the types of podcasts that are available out there. So in terms of what does that mean? Let's start to explore what that is. So if you haven't joined us before, my name is Tom Strnad. I'm the lead digital artist of the Creator Space, and welcome. And in terms of the project, I just want to thank all our partners in making this happen. We have the Canada Council for the Arts, and we have our library partners: the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library, and the sound recording kit is a great tool that you can access through the library partners. So right now, Blue Mountains Public Library and Wasaga Beach Public Library, starting April 1st, will have their sound kit available. And we'll also have we'll have a sound kit in the Collingwood Public Library coming in the late spring as well, is our hopes there. So we're really excited to be able to have this access to equipment, the technology that's available to you, our library members, and our community here. So, what does it take to make an audio podcast? So, we hear podcasts a lot, and we think about, there's video podcasts, and today we're going to really focus on the audio side and what that means. So, audio podcast recording. So, here's the overview of what we'll look at today. So, preparing your audio podcast, getting it ready to produce. Then we'll look at documentary versus fictional production requirements. We'll look at writing a script and some of the tools that are available to us, such as in Final Draft. Then we'll talk about in-person versus virtual recording and the differences and what that can mean to a successful audio podcast production. And then we'll look at the portable sound recorders and what that means. And we'll look at smartphones as a recorder as well, and some of the different types of microphones along the way too. So really kind of jam-packed session. We'll go through all these topics and areas, and then we'll have some time for a Q&A at the end. So I'll open that up, and then you can ask me some questions there as well. Coming up in April, we're going to do a multi-part workshop in audio podcasting. That'll be project-based, so we will have information on that soon. So stay tuned if you're interested in audio podcasts, audio design. And again, it will be a project-based goal. We'll work together to finish some pieces. I know it will be virtual initially, but we will work together and go through these concepts. So that's why this is really a great primer for what that will require. Okay, so let's start off with preparing your audio podcast. What does that mean? So when you think about it, it's not too different than most other types of projects. You need to kind of figure out what are you doing, who's involved, what do you need to achieve it, and then scheduling it out and booking the time to do it. So that's the same idea here. So we're looking at creating some sort of a documentary treatment or a script for fictional storytelling. Then we need to figure out a list of interview subjects or actors, like the roles that you've written in the script. And the list of interview subjects is great to preliminarily do. There might be some changes as you interview one person. They might give you connections to other people, so that could be always evolving slightly. So then you need to look at what equipment do you need to achieve this. So you can book this equipment from the library through our equipment loans. Maybe you're preparing your own. You have some of your own microphone equipment available. So you got to make sure that you're able to record the audio. And the great thing about audio is it's not as expensive as video. And you can get some pretty great equipment for not too much money, or you can access it through our library partners. Then the last thing you need to do is schedule the recording. So, when will this happen? How much time do you need for it? It might be one day, one afternoon, 1 hour. Can you do this in person, or will it be virtual? Like, will you be able to do it through video conferencing, for example? So, that's just things to think about in preparing your audio podcast. So now let's look at the next element, which is documentary versus fictional audio podcast. These are the two main types. There's variations and probably 1,000 different variations within these. But if you think about the main concepts, is there's usually a documentary type, and then there's fictional audio podcasts that are telling us fictional stories. So what are the differences here? So a documentary audio podcast usually consists of a narrator and or interview subjects. So if you think about, one of my favorite audio podcasts in documentary genre is the crime podcast or true crime podcast. And that usually has a narrator that's narrating through the story of how a particular true crime occurred. There might be some interviews with, victim family members, police officers, things like that. But overall, it's consisting of that kind of narrator and interview subjects. Now, if you think of fictional audio podcasts, those are consisting primarily of actors playing different roles. So it's almost like a radio play, if you will, where there's different people portraying different roles as actors, and it's fictional. So they're not really those people, and it's a fictional concept. This again was very popular. I said like a radio play. That was a big standard. There's more of that occurring now, and it's a really exciting field to explore. I have witnessed several theatrical, production companies looking at doing audio podcasts of plays. So they've, restaged plays into audio podcasts. And so there's really some neat ways to do that, especially right now with in-person things not being possible. An audio podcast can be a great way to achieve, that kind of a reading of a play. Could be a really great idea, or perhaps just a script that you want to do. I've said this before in other workshops, but if you think about it, $100 million films can be achieved for, $20, $30 if you do it yourself with sound effects and a few friends doing voices, versus all that's required to achieve the same thing in visual effects, cinematography, actors, and so on. So the power of fictional sound can be quite strong, and that's such a neat aspect to look at, of how you can achieve much more in sound that you might be able to than video. Now, what are the similarities? So both need to be recorded. So we need some sort of microphones, and then we are post-producing with sound editing, design, and mixing, and this will be covered in future workshops, webinars. So right now we're looking at how do we get from concept to starting to record these and scheduling them in. And then again, that post-producing with sound editing. So let's say you had an interview that was 3 hours. You're going to start taking sound editing, taking the best of those 3 hours to make it work. And then same thing, you might be taking, the sound design aspect. How do you make it sound, create a certain area? So if you're doing a true crime documentary audio podcast, you might want to have a lot of different sound effects to go over where we are. So if you're talking about being at a harbor, you'd want to have that kind of a sound of being at a harbor. If you're talking about a dark and stormy night, you'd want to make it sound dark and stormy. So that's that sound design aspect. Then the mixing area, the final thing where you're leveling, mixing, making it sound really nice and clean. Any kind of filters you require, equalization, all that fun stuff, making it nice and produced, mixed, and finished. So both of those need those aspects. You need to record both. But the big difference is that a documentary piece you could potentially just do by yourself as a narrator. But a fictional piece, again, you might just do by yourself, playing different roles, but usually involves more actors. So it could be a little bit of a bigger project than a documentary one. But again, there's no exact rules. A documentary project could have 100 interviews for the audio podcast. So again, the main thing is both have interviews, just different types of interviews. They're actual real people talking about the real events versus fictional people acting out different roles. So quite a big difference and a different type of level of expertise as well in what's required in those two. Okay, so writing a script, really great to do for the fictional. Same with the documentary. I like to always say with the documentary, you might really want to look at doing a bit of a treatment. Figure out what is it that you're going to talk about. It can also involve doing research. So again, going back to that true crime aspect, you might need to do research to really figure out how this crime happened. What is your thesis on this, or what are you what's kind of story angle or point of view are you looking to explore in that? So that's that research, treatment. So in documentaries, we call it a treatment in terms of an outline of what the podcast will be about? What are your goals in these kinds of, with the interviews and the narration? So that kind of a treatment and outline. You can also be writing a full script for the narrator to narrate out this story as it unfolds. So it could be documentary based, factual based, but you might write it out as a script as well. So those are those kinds of aspects there. Now, Final Draft is a really great piece of software. I think it's only about $25 for the iPad version. So I really like using that version. So I'm just going to open up Final Draft here. And how can this be used? And it's a great little piece of software here. Final Draft, you can save everything right on your iPad or through your iCloud, and you have basically script formats. So what does it mean? So let's look at something from an earlier workshop. This was something called Rain Falls, and you can see, let me just see if I can get it that maybe a little bit bigger. There we go, that's nicer. Okay, so you can see here the script. If we start to look at what are the script basics, and it's really not too mysterious, and it's fun to start exploring this avenue and this aspect of writing. And again, Final Draft puts all this formatting together just by hitting enter and going through it will make the format. So right in the beginning, you see it says EXT. So that stands for exterior park day. The next line is a description of what's there. So for the audio podcast, I'm not so concerned visually what's there. I'm writing more about what the auditory cues are. What are the sound effects? What are the sound design elements? So that's really what I'm trying to write about in that area there. How is it going to be related through sound, and how is that going to work? Right. So here you can see birds chirp in the distance, cars drive by, a sudden sound of thunder, rain begins to fall. All of those are 4 distinct sound effects. So I'm writing it in, trying to set the scene through sound design, sound effects. Then I've outlined different roles. So narrator, talking about it was a rainy day as 2 mysterious looking people walked over to a bench and sat down. Person A, did you bring the hard drive? Person B, it depends. Person A, I have the payment we discussed. Did you include everything I asked for? Person B, it has all the information you requested. Person A, then we have a deal, and so on. And then there's a person in uniform, and it goes from there. So that's the general fictional, the audio podcast type script. Now you can see right away, I can also just write this with sound effects. And so you can have just like I had here before, birds chirp, we can have the sound effects, we can have, cars driving by, we can do this whole element, thunder, rain begins to fall, that kind of whole aspect to it. And then just have the narrator. So we can have the narrator elements talking through. This could again be for a documentary. So you write your entire narration out. So you have it scripted, and then you're ready to read it and produce it, to record it. So that's the whole pre-planning, is getting something written out. I think it's really, really important to go in with some sort of a plan. So again, a whole script, a treatment, have an idea of what you're recording, your questions, if you're talking about doing an interview with subjects. You want to be prepared and know what you're doing the podcast about. It's not just going to be random, right? So it's really important to plan, write things out, and perfect it in the writing. It takes a lot less time to record something that's been edited and perfected in the script stage than to try to record something and then trying to edit it afterwards, right? So this is the first stage of writing, is to make it as good as possible in that writing stage before you record it, versus just recording it and then trying to fix it after. So there's a lot more time saved in writing and your own process of writing versus recording something that's has too much or it needs editing, and then you're spending extra time recording something that maybe you're recording something for half an hour of total duration that ends up being 15 minutes. So if you pre-edit it a bit and perfect that script, you're going to save that time of getting people together and recording. And then what can happen is, if let's say you're 1 hour script becomes a good 20 minutes at the end. If you can do that in the writing stage, then you're not spending that 1 hour of recording everybody that might take, 3 hours by doing multiple takes, but you can then perfect the 20-minute piece, have more takes, and make it even better. So you're just trying to elevate everything by spending more time on the script. So I really like to stress that is, planning through in the script, it really helps and, makes things really work well. Okay, so let's look, let's just create a new document. So I'm going to just go, screenplay, and we will call it audio podcast demo. Okay, so here we go. We got our script, and you see it's a blank slate. And that could always be the first struggle, is just working with a blank slate. How do you start to fill it in, and how do you make it go? Okay, so I'm going to click here. Right away it gives me a concept, so I'm going to hit, okay, interior, train, station, afternoon. Right, so I've already set what's happening, right? So a distant train whistle, crowds talk, in background violin music can be heard. Right, so we get a sense of there's, something happening, distant train whistle, crowds talking, background, violin music can be heard. Maybe assuming someone's just playing the violin and the mezzanine and, going like that. So now you can see there's a few, we have a few choices here. So we have the ability to have, action, we have a character, we have parenthesis, and so on. So if it's a character, I can go and I can hit that, and it's going to tell me, what's going on next. So let's continue writing. Okay, so I'm going to hit a tab, and I'm going to put narrator return. You can see now what it's doing is it's centered the narrator, and it's indented like 2 tabs for the dialogue of the narrator to happen. So narrator might help describe things. So a man plays a violin next to the ticket booth. A young girl walks up to the ticket booth. Okay, and then what I'm going to do again, tab, I'm going to hit, say who it is, young girl. I'd like 1 ticket to Toronto okay, and then we'll have clerk. I'm sorry, little girl. Do you have parent with you? Question. I can't sell you a ticket to board alone. Right, so then it goes on from there. So you can see we're writing a story, characters. So right away I have a narrator, young girl, clerk. So we have this, ongoing story, and we continue going from there. So that's our fictional process. Very simple software to use. That's all it is. I'm typing, tab, we're putting scene headings, sound design notes, sound effects, and really, narrator. I'm using the narrator to help describe things. So this is the one big thing with audio podcasts is that, you really need to, through sound design or through narration, to help design, help explain the visuals. And that's imperative in when you start to think about, documentary work as well, to make sure that you can explain where we are. So you might need to always say, we're here. We're on the shores of, Vancouver, and it sets the scene. Now, visually, if it was a video, you could see that we're at the shores of Vancouver. So it's all these types of things. It's a really different way of communicating and writing in the audio podcast world. So that needs to be planned. Okay, so let's move on from there. So we're writing our script. So that's that first step, final draft. Again, I was using it just on an iPad. It's about $25 to purchase. Very low cost piece of software, great for formatting through our audio podcast. The next thing we got to look at is, are we going to record in person, or are we going to do virtual recording? So that's really important. So, the in-person recording right now with, the pandemic occurring, you got to look at how can you achieve this. So I recommend, the best practice right now is, can you put the person in their own room or in their own isolated room, and you can be in another room for the recording. And that's great because they can hear you. You can set up headphones that, both people can share, or they can just talk and hear you, and you can still talk through glass or anything. So as long as there's some sort of separation, it's highly advisable. Just because if you're going to be recording audio, you have a lot of talking happening. So you have a lot of that, potential germ sharing or air particles occurring. So it's really great to try to separate someone in their own recording booth to record. So you can hear them, you can ask questions, and so on. So you can even, look to give them headphones or just, be able to talk through the room. So that's a really great way to do it in person. The other thing that can happen too is you can do some virtual recording now. There's a lot of video conferencing, options. We're really getting used to it. We're able to record video conferences directly. So, why not just use that? Use a video conferencing tool. You can record the audio, you record the video and just take the audio from it. So just set up a video conference and then you can record that way. There are some podcast specific type of tools as well. They start to get into like a monthly cost and so on. So I'm mainly looking at, what's available to you. So for example, we recommend something like if you already have a Gmail account, you might want to just use something like Google Meet, where you can just use the video conference and record from there. You can also, use the feed from a computer to record the audio in. So we'll look at that shortly as well. How do we take audio from a device? We can do it that way too. So that's a really great way. So something just to think about. Do you need to do it in person? Can you do it virtually? And virtually could be really great. Even if you have some dropouts as we're talking, through video conferencing, not a big deal. You can always do an extra take. So just, if you hear something that went off and it didn't record well, just do another take and you can make sure you recorded it properly in the way you want it to be recorded. Okay, so portable sound recorders. Let's have a look a bit, on the sound recorders. We talked about this a bit. We do have a bunch of technical videos on the use of the portable sound recorders, but I just wanted to cover, what is the portable sound recorder. So I have, this is my own trusty Tascam DR40. This portable sound recorder is very similar to the Zoom H4n. Basically, you have the multi inputs on the bottom here. Let's go over to this camera here. So you have the what's called a XLR and a quarter-inch multi, so you can put an XLR cable or a quarter-inch line cable. So the XLR is typically for the microphones, and then you have these top microphones that you can also record general ambient sound recording as well. So it's a really great little sound recorder. There's, you're basically just turning them on or off. So just turning the power on, it's going to load itself. A little bit of reflection there, and then we have a phantom power note, and I have it in phantom power mode. And we talked a little bit about the phantom power. So the microphones that you're getting that we have through the Creator Space, through our library partners, there's shotgun microphones like this one. So you put the XLR cable, hook up this. So let's just look at that. So I'm going to put an XLR cable into the back. So that's connected. And then the other end is going to go into my sound recorder right there. And I'm going to hit the enter there. Okay, and then I'm ready to record. So I'm just in a standby, check, check, check. And let me just show you guys how we got our levels right here. Check, check, 1, 2, check, check, check. Now, most of the sound recorders, they have this nice little arrow here, and that's about the -6 decibel range, and that's kind of your main peak. So on the technical level, that's about as high as we want to go. So you can see we're kind of right hovering around there. Check, check, check. That's really nice. And once is pause, and then you can see the record isn't happening, and then I'll hit record again. Check, 1, 2, check, 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 and now you can see the numbers are moving, and then we know we're actually recording. So that's a really simple way to record. So we have these recording kits, the sound recording kits available through our library partners. You can take out the Zoom H4n and work with that same process. So really similar to what I'm just showing you right here. What does that look like? So this is kind of what you get in our kits. So you have the Zoom H4n, you have a condenser microphone. There's either an MXL or an Audio Technica. And those look like, I have one here. I'm going to just grab one. There's also a pop filter, and there's a gooseneck stand as well. So the gooseneck is just lets you, kind of filter out everything. So let's just have a look at what the condenser microphone can look like. I'll just bring this in here. Okay. And I'll go to this camera here. So this is the condenser microphone. So we have this, just gonna get this in focus. So we have this kind of a condenser microphone. You talk into here, and then this is the pop filter that would go in front. So, whether this is a Shure, there's MXL is what we have through our library partners, and we also have an Audio Technica one. All very similar. Your face is really right up to it. Now this is the pop filter to avoid any kind of popping from saliva as you talk. And then there's some sort of a stand. So we have like a gooseneck stand or mic stand, and you plug it in. Same idea, XLR cable here on the bottom. That would just go right over to the sound recorder, and you're ready to go. So that's kind of the whole condenser microphone, right? And then, how do you talk into it? Check, 1, 2, check, 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 really nice and close. And that's our main way of getting the recording going. Then we have the XLR cable comes with the kit. And again, the Zoom H4n, very similar to the Tascam DR40 that I just showed you guys. So that's that whole kit there. So the Zoom H4n sound recorder, it has 4 channels. Then you can connect, multiple microphones. So you could use technically the gooseneck stand with the condenser microphone, and you can use the shotgun microphone. So we do have, every kit comes with the shotgun microphone that's known as the boom mic, and that's for like a directional distance recording. So I can be further away, pointed at the mouth, getting that recording. And this is for close-up condenser microphone vocals. Usually narrator. I'd use the boom more for like the other actors, and narrator for the condenser microphone. Distant types of in terms of the tone, if you think of the condenser as more that classic kind of radio microphone, deep bass tones, and then the boom mic is more of a what you're getting when you're recording actors in a video or film scene. So you can treat it in that same kind of method. So you can adjust the recordings, and then you record to an SD card. Then the other thing we can do too is we can have these like what are called input-output devices. So there's a bunch of them available, and they're really cool and neat, and they can be very complex, they can be less complex, but they're a great tool to have. So I'm just gonna reach over here and just grab one of the ones that I have here. So this is a really cool one that the iTrack 1 Pre. So we use these just right now in our workshops. So you can attach this end. Let's go over here to the close-up. This end you can actually attach to an iPad, and then you can actually put in, this has a combo XLR 1/4 inch as well, and then you can adjust the levels here. So you would just put it into the bottom of an iPad. Let's just have a look if I can do that here. So I'm going to get rid of the feed here, go right into the iPad device. Okay, and then I'd actually then be able to record it directly to an iPad with like a sound recording software. So it's a really cool device that can be initiated, and yeah, then we can actually record straight into an iPad. So that's one option. The other thing too we can do is we can have these little cables that can go right into a smartphone. So this little iTrack can go into a smartphone or an iPad through that lightning cable. And then this goes into the headphone jacks that are designed for smartphones. So it's a great little tool. So that can just plug right in. And then what it does is it actually has a split there. So headphones go here and the microphone goes on this side. So you can actually monitor and talk. So it's kind of splitting what your headset would do in a cell phone or a smartphone. And then you split the microphone and the headset there. So then you can put directly into that, like a little lavalier microphone like these ones. Let me just grab one here. So one like this. So you can put that way you can put the microphone directly in here. And then this could be hooked up to someone, just like I have this microphone here that I'm talking to you guys with. So that smartphone access can be really useful. And that way you can make your smartphone or iPad into a digital sound recorder as well. So those are some of the really great techniques that you can achieve both ways of how do you record with these. Okay, so now let's just look at one more device, and then we can have these types of input-output devices. So you can have things like this universal audio arrow, and then this is like a FireWire Thunderbolt 3 cable. This can go right into like your laptop or desktop that has a Thunderbolt 3 or USB-C cable, and then you can input cables in this way. So again, this kind of a device, you can put in mic lines right there, and then you have outputs, so you can actually have speakers to listen to, and then you can control the levels right here. So this can go right into directly into software like Pro Tools. Want to mention that whole Pro Tools side. So you could use software like Pro Tools that's free, Pro Tools First, no charge. Put it on your desktop and record directly into something like Pro Tools. So, quite a variety of options on that production side. So you're just trying to make sure you don't have levels that are too hot. A good, if there's, think of the colors. Green is totally clean. Yellow starts to just give you that warning. It's kind of, mid-peak. And you don't want to get into the red zone on your levels, because then you're getting into potentially overloading. Digital audio is really, really crucial to not go to zero or to totally peak, because any of those hot clips that occur, those pops you can't salvage them because it's over peaked. So you want to always have it, always, if it's a little bit quieter, you can always boost it, versus if it's too loud, it's hard to reduce. So, this is kind of a ongoing through line in digital arts technology. Same with video. You don't want to overexpose because it's harder to fix it, but you can always boost something that's slightly underexposed. So same thing with audio. Think of it that way. If it's too hot, it's a lot harder to fix in the digital audio world than if it's a little bit quieter and you can boost it. Again, everything works to a degree. You just have to be careful to try to get the best possible levels throughout as you go. Okay, so I'm going to just look at a couple more things here. So in terms of the wireless Go microphones as well, these units, so this is part of the sound kit that we offer through the library partners. So these can go directly. So these come with this little cable that looks like this. And I'll just go over here to the close-up camera. And so what you can do is there's a microphone right here. So this would be clipped on you. So that's the direct microphone. Oops. Okay, and then the other one is the receiver. So one's the transmitter, which actually has a microphone built into it. And then the receiver is the other end. And this one has a little bit of a cable side here. So then using this little adapter piece, for example, I could plug it in there. Oops, sorry, wrong way around. Plug in my 1.8. This one would typically go into the camera, right? To microphone to the camera and record into a camera. But in this case, what I want to do is just take the mic feed. So I just put it into the microphone. This goes into the smartphone. And remember, this is splitting headphones with the talking microphone into this TRRS, it's called, for smartphones. And that lets you talk, take phone calls and talk. So basically, there's a mic line and there's the headphone line. So we're tricking it. We're saying, hey, mic line from the mic goes there, and then headphones for monitoring go there. And then you're ready to go. So you can take our wireless Go system. You can get adapters like this one here. They're just a few dollars online. And then you can feed that into a smartphone directly. Right? So then again, alternatively, I can take this lightning cable and that can go into a smartphone directly as well. So, and then I can put right in here, I can put directly into this input things like the XLR cable. So this kind of a unit takes the XLR cable directly, and then it's ready to go. That lightning cable goes into like an iPad or an iPhone, and XLR cable there, and then we're able to. We have a gain, so we can go up or down in the actual levels of that. So that's perfect. Okay, so that's the main aspect of how do we prepare and work towards doing audio podcast production. So again, starts with planning, figuring out what your idea is, writing it out, treatment, script, narration if it's a documentary and there's a narrator, full script if there's actors with parts talking in that type of a script. Use something like Final Draft, again, low cost, available on an iPad. Then when you're ready to go, spend the time planning. And then get together people that you need to, either in person, virtually. You're recording the entire podcast, audio podcast. And that's really the first step of audio podcast production, getting from really pre-production all the way through to production, getting it recorded. And then we go into the next steps, which would then be sound editing, sound design, and the final mix. And that we will be covering in upcoming webinars. So let's open it up now to any kind of questions that anybody has. So I'm just going to open up the Q&A tab here. Let me know if anyone has any specific questions. You can rewatch this and go over these concepts through this connection, this direct link later. It just gets posted right when we finish, so you can instantly rewatch it. And then again, just feel free to check out this sound recording kit at our libraries. Start writing out your ideas. You can access that through the script writing software like Final Draft. You can just do it in like a notepad software. It doesn't have to be too fancy. Just getting those ideas and preparing what you need to do. Get together who you need to interview and record. Remember to practice safe, in terms of PPE, personal protective equipment, to keep separation between your interview subject and yourself. There's no need to be in close proximity with microphones. You can have them on a stand or have the person hold the microphone, and we can go from there. Check out tbmcs.ca, our website. Go to our YouTube channel. We have a whole series on more of the technical recording side. But really, it really starts with the idea first. So start thinking about your ideas, because, like I said, we're going to have a multi-part workshop that you might want to be part of, and it'll be a lot of fun to work towards making an audio podcast production together, and going through that process. So again, thanks for joining us. I want to thank all our partners in this project for making this possible, making this happen. Canada Council for the Arts, and then we have our library partners, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library. My name is Tom Strnad. I'm the lead digital artist of the Creator Space. Again, thanks for joining us. You can always email me, tom@tbmcs.ca, with any questions. And like I said, stay tuned, and I look forward to seeing you guys at the multi-part project workshops coming up soon. Take care. Have a good rest of the day.